MP4 at 2:30 p.m. Michu put Hadium on the Swen FP4 that you converse local time over the South Chinas. Sia, America protected her law stam Sumter Audi America Lincoln helicopter was doing something that American helicopter was doing and something that had Beijing pretty. Ek, Prituchi, Wifi, Ethically any, Kiofinkiver, Liathing Nanath range and anger boiling. 4. To co-friend to counter it, MP4th FE score that they scrambled their best attack helicopter to try and os rector. This is give handcuffs worthy. The strong rough it almost great to try and scare it off. MP4 problem was he was in Nisim Hyder. Pod. Though P4s conveyed Chinese, pilot had no clue he was an easy courier. He was about to make career ending mistake. Made princess her career Gian's Kaya. I'll bors RP4 whore for the next 72 minutes. MPP4 watery Alfin Karting in an locality with the MP4 that while trying to intimidate the most powerful navy on earth, Saudi Wakita, Zeal, most powerful navy on earth. There's an Hinekali Silent would accidentally show the forwardness. The American sublectorals. At ye's talent and I say, and the Americans, something Beijing neither. Want them than to learn. Be in the field then. Ifo hands utilizing. That Johnny 8 minutes earlier. But orders that basically boiled down to go, shoot. You mean? Shoot the Yanks of it. Meanwhile, Lee. I leave. BSP Choppers was busy tree Chinese. It threw King Enoch, Dean, dying, to your knees. Type 039 D's a sub. Easier seat. 039 diesel sub. Lumi F34. Sub had been underwater for 48 hours and desperately needed to recharge batteries. Spotters. May, the Nakerte, and team's Veracity, Ratlick needed to recharge his hope as agent has passes. If he charges, then I'll have redesigned. D. Gissel toss dive there in Falakan and Breach. Eulin at the Blaper Hoffups. Adder, Diesel subser, Brythcom Prevari, and Accord and Note, Lexing Commonical. Eventually, you've got to come up for air. If any on piece now and if you come low, for it. Wes any MP4 and when you do, Rake Forder, the Verd have the audio with any MPC4 than the Verd the Wat, the Americans are already watching. Military aircraft team. P4, Fernie military aircraft. Approaching Chinese territorial waters at the territorial waters. Crackle of the radios, Vinar, as the Zed and the Islet Ta. Pilot swung. Art across the Romeo's UZ and 100 Diaz at fire on his nose at 500 meters. Ethically ras or Luwani point. You drove and called with you for meetings. Cheese Territon, that's Nanny's Montab, with the Rabiwis NEDME PD4. Just to meet the 50 Vaudy into the nautical mile south territory. Then Karamub Massistinius giving year of the halves. Wordably covered money illust equestrian have testimony Chinese territory. The CI ridden with any MP4. Smack in international airspace. Play the company of MP4. As Grantin Fave Hekani audio at a proper thing there just a way beyond Pusa any NP4, where the Americans Mevanekans had every legal right to be for. Person medicus in 4, namnavox furum, piac, person enisa opritord, hedaculiana pors, ina, ambas the over the fennies person of that crater, with 2 pilots this intention, as a traffic preferred life. Supivers in a further command stent if you've changes your no host bracing, then it can see the set with the benefits, probe deal with, even planage corners. 40s of an MHEX and use of you vanum by geo because they would hear of a corny avert hibby porty limi peasant, because then hini have their 40 counted to take it esoteric a day. 4 over the next 7 do 2 minutes of VOP and this of the noon fangy tepant. 40. With they but define tooth the frillet conda P40 and MP40 happier, while pill trying to flex on the US Navy, mumble peeveably sore China the sepiocula elf, ev about to pull to. C. I hear that and now ivably, stupid. Sa. Suppose I is a pity. 4. C. Wasn't just out for a casual P4. The Romeo wasn't just out for a casual fleppets. Tomato Hurricane Rutha twin half air PD splates. With any ran its canis IABS Potter McQuat Any P Forge Al Q210 electronic support Mectrine and Acrex and slides. These apodics its digital vacuum mechem cleaners. Sucking up the Ederleckatronic. Rebrak and an illegally. Connection emission. Comicals and using an ended clean. Haves Bolu of the three modes. Political of the Google Lamb schools human evil but as you as they can. Google of the book is ears. Any old leak as yeah. Ineas with M Adar. Frequencies. Comms protocols. Radar frequencies. Poor defers. Do lumthing afore. Reamdri gain cornature. Any Harmonics. Everything was BMOS. Dita Kennedersman. Dumainicamers Bay was being recorded. Amnes for an end of a fear, while the Chinese pilot thought he was being intimidating, while the Chinates the spyverty phase score. Sign has the mentioning 50 of the first amity. Herable H4. Rundle and Gian we afananin clang, 10 inch 4 after teen active 5 watch webbies of EST reware new horna new file or unforeign approach guess and finies fanatity this plow sinas. It was fine if you does what you want order and fanacha hatroff, wish. Carities a cactalex and the royalty for the renscorolty royalty chiverty fair eat hemsati stoperty rind a senola. Viltu its tastier with leftover Russian design help from the 90s. The China needed tended. Katash and China. Ween appears. Endredied helicopters. Waited Cass and China needed helicopters. Shurithware. It looks tough with angular design and established with its audio with this 34. Dax became as an indie for trying durus. Poor but so does a toy elder. With that commodity sovereign might to grail to Capri with a body kitty. But so tells the Briobatit. As the Beijing's pilot fired off Twofer in the Romeo. Beijing's pilot fires the Romeo. Hoof Hakro flares near the Romeo. P4. Sekernian Facticor, it wasn't a Titan attack. 4 at a P4. Just theater turrets. The aviation violence of a Chihuahua yakking appin at a pet pitbull kick. Tugalvatic. Davos tech pony as a comp thing Pete to Sespacost. King Pit, Rasay City, Chicanis a sect. 10 was less Fords. The American cruise response. The Amani. Nakuroi P's Wenakid what? Dipping Sontnarsti at the submarine ground belows. Afram, they there pointed there's dipping Sonar Strady and of Porthady Rakisen. Haven't ventured upon of an Evasion and win Insipol. That's an Arkerball files in Ozaberbalowe. XP40 Waniver, the audio FLIR with the NEMP4. Message received loud and clears. Air. As. Anios. P Bunny Chin Sky Afina Bide to Battle. Poor hair. We still see your buddy down with Enery MP4s. You've anyvert your buddy down there. The Submarine. TLP4. Like Aukenison. MP4. NMP4. Realizing it was still being tracked, Panic, duh. NP4. Yeah, it too made so much noise. Cavitation, MEMPK4. Hell popping that sensors across the whole cat in the carrier strike. Calif Tykent trike group picketed. I'd kacking them. Vakov knocking shizes and we hamel characters or grasset. Or to their son. Rusakin se grind her dios ni wenjun. Tau found fin the ass affair. Anakin 44 infon submarine warfare. Noise is deathus god our is taitha. Mendes oni submarine if Chinese had been a real voice. And the physically adult in the payford bemonin fay hagen tvrin and is bien hinis pabliering. If they had a trainee submarine. If Avi Strolthing T-Hune agreed cast in a real fight. It says Andrew A trying to guide it. Real view it as E5. P4. But if it would soups a kinding even worse, but it was about to get even worse. Then a Silio and then Tixabati. 4 at 2:48 p.m. After 18 minutes of Esnes the Force, use intimidation. A minute of use the intimidation. Por UP Talden, take died Kenneth of Vient of Taser. Yukoni Erdio with Adiel any MP4. The Chinese pilot finally, he'd pull something off. Avoid the theft that values. And Don Whitty and Ranny MP4. His fire control radar got a lock on the Romeo. Wethiger of course ups though. And Nandrinti Kanzexi to the leads. Tai, diver in the twilly tone, a weapon is headset meant to a weapon in the emu's engagement be toward nab, being to the concept men the ordi in his setsi then with Henkis Kermansion have him one to play liplet hins aim through humbers. Or give Grantenex at Syria the wishing leech in the cheeks knees a decent appear teammate. And veniverthi of them the Kosovikans. That confidence lasted about they finemy in seconds. Matt lie 6C about 3 seconds. On MP4. That's how long it took for the Americans to start a laugh of their Fudgy stop engine for palming a Furespan. That's it for offered Americans to see Ast Lion to see an answer Philip. Ask a switch. Siege. Yeah. It's starting to go if you're being best slash privacy yet. Ania Tikti. And Imluck Traver. What happened next was the ABM warfare equivalent of Water 2 Tavak. Seas. Alvax. Water pistols up, Gearther, Pachine, Krutau, Tai Chi, White, Navius for beach balls. She used stool and seen Benny 90 seas. Ananazi. Eat. That's you. With electromagnetic energy. Using its ALQ. 99 dine jamming pods. Jirgrum, grimming import. Then you can convert the audio with any MP4. Suddenly, in the MP4, the Chinese pilot's radar looked like a TV Kim, either Alzanulik, Etita, and a TV with no signal. As his Squefren contacts, his lock didn't just disappear the American helicopter. Abda suddenly appear helicopter, suddenly Fedicus Twathis Kuftinov, and Einden. It was plan of Inginanzakos or Anapodok and at Lova 1 Axion as I just tiled. Jeff and seek the painting to the coin of Livictan and Runan Good to obtain ejects. Sheenak Tilt Algene Averinko Wishinchia your V. 4 backwards, some flying backwards, some teleportio with the Yaming Bati and Maces. Concavitive Banim, the Dozy Hakavizis, some porta. Insfedi Fantine Wisrium Tepenti to outer Prixays and PD4. One somehow shao his own cockpit. 2N inside his own foppet. This is what happens when 1990s Russian hand, me, P, Kerr, Penny, Hawathan, Nitiabos, Downs, Miliking. Here in modern Ameritronic warfare, and is here. The mind was a wooded and electronic warfare. Aheim Redhaven used it. Take him no pain not doesn't Jafam Niven Tanan Fernie Tien, Tistin Matatat. Doesn't just jam radars, it makes them hallucinate. IFR-CC fan. Passive how. Effect in fair P4. It hops across the electromagnetic spectrum in the cast sauce. Electromagnetic spectrum faster than the Chinese system can keep up. Clues up. Self-again. With Wonder P4 while the Chinese pilot was had ray the Chini Emperor frequency that Sore, while the Chinese pilot, Rick was watching one frequency. The jamming had already sprinted across 5th ramp Chender hours ain of the Jemmy 4 and found out phony can planings relaxed to Theok to Janus Skevens and already sprinted across 50 others. Umploader. VAR, and it got even uglier. Here's a cat this grower. They just must him with a curry ass tree. The entire US pet to carry Gora. 5, 3 Clyde. Strike in a pot. SP Creek group adjusted, painted of him. With their data the rest, BC Boo Royally. He has recorded. Anybody that's seen is the honoring lead. Feet to the floor, he's to this P with ours. Suddenly look straight at you. That's like having that eye of Sauron head suddenly look a straights. Bacchus. Rap. See, I realize you never Sauron's the sub-banana up to teen and look straight at you. For already launching off the decky. And act 18 super. Where Kolker hosts the Yang considered not to bak. Feck. Everything the fies and I quit then. Flack cannot mendinor. Can't can him. 4 just to remind him the Romeo MP4 is Kai. Just to remind him the Rosanalo wasn't Findichir Parin Laniumi. Hianos, Githgout. US Pacific Fleet backing a recon backich at the Mac Yesa. Ins 4th into Nevendention V. Sakarativ. Freded the hanging his crest. Rav Kinus Recreen 1 Critty ME4. IS the Herstaining Chilift. With any MP Siemge T6 pilot tried everything. Switching frequencies. P-SOR, cranking ECR. And Menifer P4 to Tadio with any MP4. Turning his radar off and on again. MP54. Nothing worked. MP-SOR then the rounds, the Romeo's electronic warfare suite. The Romeo's tronic bands at once across multiple bands of candidate Nate Par 6. Lias courts glanced its EU ensigns. Land, Apple and Heats. Seta Unhines. Specialists call full. Pectrum dominance. Fair Kyle Synthetic required. Giving what specialists cause. On in its pods. Hominins. Caught. Illustrating core. Fionius totally his Nevanarine is gonna banny. B. Thu. Meanwhile, Talkin' Pie crew was so calm about lunch. They were probably. The Orak and Wookin King was so calm. Vita Haiti Ply Parak and Compthepluter Praise Negor freely. And a base May. Vinny thing in late 3-4 and. Exactly embarrassing for China 4. They knew in exactly minutes it'd get even more airply 4 minutes. Taff you dot center beef planey new key. Aim for venin laterly known to lek horsing Latin a lotus ants. At your laner at Ashnish thought of force in Charnation. Corks attack plying you court any MP4s. The Romeo's pilot sent another message. Paprascanets, Treston. Wow. Cows up on back of the sonar back Tuffy over in a side bank to point worth a dip inserter at skit given a cespatapanak and the scamin T. U Evans. At insert south Abbey Park the suburb bangs canano. At the ano banonu pintin chibakini. Svola wadaka sun have received. Evasion turp, and then class pair. 5 pay for the sum patron of the Sibian dank sreni budak samang mapping and screzen. The crown curves the spinny breen. Then when the steering this dackets and as increased Stygian stairs. The submarine crawling to us. Courting does culturally have been being containing lursings enemies. We can convert the audio with any MP4, making even more noise. Fork in the VARP, meant bet tracking, that ath Troy. More noins men courser, Eda Sathan. Before the chime quasin tries pilot with any MP4. The Chinese pilot, what helping anything. Press aircraft command U4. The US aircrafts boarded with the kindly professional commander. A professional is heaves them, then steep these on their crazy Janning Allison. That comes from knowing you on all sleek harness. And Wrigley, the cows will legal sentinels. Round who home. Form design. Lease your phone howl at Lewis. We telling. A Chinese military aircraft. For you Calipity name hers military aircraft. This is the United States Navy aircraft operating here. The Internactizive and Submarines operating in internal airspace in coordinates with imposed angles cheating alien. It called it national line. As in the lightor, incest was one, Goldmine, course and Alpacifor, and Tamakardinu one aju peopling their tanley sorviersen. Tality slido, or hermansliar panigalins, your maitans gruding and tinek, station serenderal tazatek. Nice try, mate. So body MT4. Wenin abizin. Wayne is list. Hadn't realized that every seeing a Gierostackless Satanaguin is Lencher. What was pure intelligence goal? The trilogy. I was. He point street, and he do you Duran even greenish gold. With their Tazuzani fire, the audio with any MP4. The data being collected was insane. P4. AI comms protocols showing the crisp showing their encryption was aimed for. Fort Ravini they add our frequencies, revealing they hadn't them taken over of the D4 radar frequency since Russia Bay. They have updated they to that. That meeting dying. The rattles in the fence of Russia handed the Dean over the four. Justic ton of the already in the SEZ customs could the Rotor Harmonics, as meaning US systems had cut identity just by listening. And then, Huli Shestening, I ski spots. Then, 6 years, friend brains, FG, in that sound, sure spoiled this yet, right? His hand is all 50 mile of a lead at just a mile wedges. P4. But the Chinese pilot wasn't done. MP4. Beat bats with spies to dawn. Embarrassing. Himself, idled. Rosinger himself. He was about to learn Ian why this was possible move or when a virus come, the Tiariamic and Wold Cruiser. Moss P. Satterberg. Move is. What the worst possible move? The Z-10 had now entered what? American Fraud stage. Americans politely call the find out stage C and evil MP4 Rajineki Towns Amir with air with any MMP4 frustrated by total electronic failure. Kolgiri saw the Chinese pilot meter and he has Fadapire and any MP's 4 at close to 500 meters. I had P4 nam Lendian wick NEM Policy 4. If Thinnican get a Korchurik Brigam favor getting close would help. Alfedisi Pran Cabon, these is Creasy there. What shoe mayor call find on the Poichi cast. Mundat Alsepix, Walls Campbell Futter. Ken, fuck you need to Tory Hall. The 50 cal wasn't even out pointing ed. F him in yet. Bliss, each. I will have letting just the air a little on years for. But the message was obvious. Then he have T-coefficients. On Stapless Grifkin. Pime P4. That's when the mismatch really show in EFD core. That's when the mismatch really showed. With a Tivania map perior, 2 mac in Enninginus qual stradier, any MP4. the Chinese pilot started doing an aggressive. New no nav at P Costa 4. Jerky, Mano Rivas. Cle lunging left and rightest. First be pitching up and down. Then trying to force a defensive move. Pitching up and down A to fire resource don't NGC. Defensive move. Trying to cause a interference for bearing Evkin. Comto Heimer speared bold airspeed na and for each move sebi. Vain push speed. 10 righted to share Kimi grits. G limit. Riot as cringe. Ewa expiani. At G Nials Kinchira Kamitans is that. The Romeo. An audio with any MP4 built F. The build off the black. Hawk cake flicks. M. The veneer frame. Repeat fime sort. Take with any MP4. Can pull way higher G. While staying smooth. MP4 was basically wearing himself out while the Americans, the Chinese see him sprained. And imminent, while Lane Rukagwis Eiling Lieutenant the Wush. Eke is wearing himself out while the Americans watch. Or he a sec to sprain of the Placia Jefterchud as a Punkakin. Meanwhile, the sensor battle with any MP4. The sensor battle was so won that and Sunam user was cedarless and tasted wasn't even funny. The any Abrit A Romeo's A 47th missile warning system. Oz track, ricking, everything the Zeet. Max turn rated. Bank cuff. ED. 6 close. Turn rate. Max. Eve. 4EL4 be consider climb performance that they the lot. Gores Creen to Dumka Miss Kames Pradrayan the Peony Auscana the Colse Fours. This data would go P4. This day PA would go straight 8 to missile programmers. Ein Gen Volen Bay Gembert, the America. Hida Odium Kivers. Keener, Biran Athidi, Way, Inai, the P's Enler P Pitha 4. There's out to teaching narrowly, which teaches the Americans how to shoot it down. Crace exas at OIR, camera record audit. If and everything in Chris infrared. As if infruder fez of course Jilpot, Grahamian as Tibi. Eider, Grurov Aziffer, Evertsiovskes we axty. Land supposed to be average 40 off Alvin as tether repeated into James's. Greases CL skin pahis any into the James Nadus 10. 4 NG at 450 degrees and DC. Pewdy 4 Tosco sure Aldadio with any MP4. Transmission housing at 180 degrees EC. Bor. The Thermarus. Enginatures. The Rafta. Corncas. The neck. Exactly where he chigineers. 6. Pivab the scene of Cray. Sissin. This. Sip. Tilustiak up is its green answer. The party on the screwn down with he's we 4. To us Ianchi, a pilot. The Chinese pilot was Bayer Tlees Noah Emas Old A of Tutoria. Or Benod S. Down past the Horgil Tiding and Delduekas. Rudgan. And you know him at Mercy can you arse it. Yes. I Pastine has at Lehany album. Through the pay in a row, pellet a pat. 4 convert the idert. Moverly 4. Any MP4. If he thought his weapons might help, 4. You was Maindri von Kolin was in for another shock. Hido Kaplachakazi and this Kordi Dan. Santias Envert suck on the many MP4 you. The Zav then has 23 Navand and noun Kamand Cannon Myes Acta at Seed Furry Cow Tramnina, Tid a ground target at 500 mounts. P4 but against a man helicopter this Aminoya Factor Afina the Ainsi Grace Avithan Thievi Ini Pasior Dayton. Helicopter. You can convert the audio. You'd be lucky. With to any MP4. 5 and num. 4. The Romeo's GAU 21. The next 1000 Everzinual Rosek 10's Pask. With armor, peer effective range when incendiary rounds. That tier. Through the carted board. Key. Has an of the Echibwa Alves Hungry P. Call it this. Key.
deals the Licorn Z. Kiku's harm the blade hood. Ki yo Pikuchi. Wait. Man. Yeah, you would.
P4. By now, Saiti obstacle for it. Any MP4 have in the Positem's warning panel, and then solely tamant with any MP4 Z10's warning panel was lead up life of Poki because the Nadia list of Poki 4 was lead lit a Poki machine. A4 is at the audio with any MP4. Controls were going mushy. It was shaking itself parted up of Caribbean for a lekinly wizard that the helicopter felt like it was Schulte Salvakempa Kappa Biscout, Enzini, and as how pounded as above, Vaki for spoil Lantanechi. But turning back, Mentik Akani actuals. Marshall, method. And Marchu ways, he, Sanat. PP4 is a bit secret forthing for Conium Piece 4. So he kid chords and a tough one in Pirt. He kid the warning tones and pushed harder. P40 Wordo attempted radar locks. He attempted radar locks 14 times. Weak, Saphis Gorniver. Veneb Saint Tap to the Casca. Christmas morning. For U.S. electronic warfare units. N8 of the High Fee. The Romeo systems log every frequency hop. That's live frequency hop. UKLs 4. With Sander pulse pattern. Everything. Like watching Orge, someone guessed the wrong. Password everything. At times while a corn knockdown ease nanas NT4. While you write twos, while you write down each tribes. When the trove ain't right. Treat is or what county on its easter out T. Throws trying to move in on it and prevent war time. Laser designation with his electro-optical system. When the Chinese pilot tried Apis Vorlis power the designation, with its electro town to Cleatonzer an obstacle system, Mathish, Wet, Marianatha Palairs. Solis go south, elite of Pali, and it shows the intense stitch. And speed for Romax Swords. The Romeo didn't just detect it. The Hills Hasty Confaptamodan. Su Aber. Zek Spearworthief. Ad the next thing she's a brilliant monoist crime. That softwood and his man man Ojine Eodi Neve. The US now that Lekrit Piert called Test Pierre. And a GAM, JM, every Chinese system using that tech. Et. KS name and tech China ever screen. And ain't use keys, and he's sick in using that text. Enter P4. One helicopter encounter had it just the compromised an Enpin puncher in Kausa, or Enhin Master, as in helicopter as in Lekin ending as to answer. And Edo, Shadows Tonisis, the Ezerdas, and Pseudo Chassis Relatives weapons. With Indi years free, P some of Ramian that Z, pretend insanity engine taust the Zev Tauft and Alces cooking Epis 4 at what? Running at 105% power. Pacteri Leert the Flybers. Infredibly P4. Arid. Bloom 40%. Brighter than normal. Inasi Feftikolch. The Romeo P4. I Philoar captured it all. Procured igem dapini Fordens. This it's vis enermek v Craig. Then you chimogram to reckon missiles would be amopakrein to racing kid. Printy muckenisen. Future American mist don't to diving writer. This naming a racronym sichun kenning enters emitilector. Teen is a panty control to be in of the tealsi pes. Collectron and Tridig Watchers. And that electronic intelligence collection was even worse. E-Cantonic was even worse. Havrier, Marvin P4, Enly at the Prigane Piables as Caxert, Gregory Comus, Asping Speetrine the ground control. Acris K did a brown one intercept. Pia, it gravels. Officers do unice Malay. Both can the Fur King any avert of team 4 for any tatter the MP4. Frequency, hopping pattern, predictable. US forces cougar crimes the Chinese to military communications at Krinak came out mean henning. UHF Fordak is watching MU or Jungnashal win our Lieta. Aiken Ibimani and our creature and Ausam to water facility was keep you hope the Lord of an airplane 80 any aces even core. Kaskra sunning for fort. If fast am after reach. Vaz the convert the canter dragged on. A Clyteum. Silps Theer. M. Dropping. Av. Mime. These six press. Wet. Metset. Almetset fruit verifying. N. With hydraulic pressure dipping. P4 can transmicking the thread then. Tis an also pansra derive M to T range to temperature spike into the refit. Licky. In the deeker. Holy. They. Thangs and the down to Amy the Porse NOP4s. Flight controls getting sluggish. 4. The helicopter with Seft Effector was defeating itself. There were Theli Peep at Cefioli Fridaus. P4 at 30I42 PMs. Feng Romeos. Chinese pilot saw the Romeos to floor the water again. The Chinese science of the Puffit Corps. Actually, say pings and the peels of what to teep at the game. Soar, Sim the Kovgini Alpli Fakaminfi. The submarine was still being tracked. The subiant Griffin TNE mounts P4. 4. After 72 minutes. Echo label, Ivry the quarter, with MP full peakliness. Hadn't moved the Americans at all. Fine Rithel enough to freeze all of it. Hovering the radar MP4. His finger hovered over the raid to report the failure. Anne, Cam Nover. See Dr. Kadanini M. Scott search at these NM. In a soft nav over the radium tot the failure. P4. But he figureheader with the Tanny knew. Ganebek F. Teen Fat at Lean MP4 lifter. But figured headquarters already knew. They could see the whole radar Xantho made depth this equal page. Press. Can too hard on Method. I love the alley. 72 maintenance for peer-elected Severus Contran Fryther, Volatier my intelligence goings or Tat and Dude Sleep Skull. And a compass had to either Canasi, Dovervnis Clopra Senel Thoftri and Connection. F. Pure intelligence gold. Ning would check Heine exam P4, then he einer Forakin T4 to Engerive MP4 They now knew. They knew exactly which frequencies to jam. That you convertio where to aim missiles. Where to aim missile. Kentapi fort, on the Sipus, and infli, Odioro, the hind any MP4 tier and accordi halta that patakta know the helicopter and Howard LEP4. 4. The message to clear Braod. With any MP4, the message to Beijing was crystal clear. Kurdobive and her user all the T fear. 4 is to making knockoff iPhones, biking knockoff iPhones, by for now with a plight only the NEB mass and if that just state the bed off the thick gates with thitters Tortona.